In this video, I'll tell you about the models and whole armies that Games Workshop is removing from the upcoming new edition of Age of Sigmar. I'm coming to you from my office this week because my normal studio is all tore apart right now. The owner of the building is getting the windows replaced and refurbished and whatnot currently, and I probably won't be able to use the space for a few weeks, which is, not ideal. Especially because the lighting in here changes and stuff, because it's technically a sunroom and, the sun doesn't play games, and the audio in here is not real good. You can hear cars going by, all that kind of stuff. But, we'll see how it goes. On Thursday, April 4th, which is this morning as I'm filming this, Games Workshop announced that they're retiring a surprising number of models and 2 whole armies from the upcoming new version of Age of Sigmar, with an article called What's Leaving the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Range on the Warhammer community site. Link down below if you want to check it out. Not what we're discontinuing, but what's leaving. Like, these models made the decision themselves after a long period of reflection. Here's a bit from the article. Every Citadel miniature is a unique piece in the ever-evolving narrative of Warhammer. Unfortunately, we can't continue to sell and support every model we've ever made indefinitely. As we make new models and new books to explore their background and rules, we have to stop producing and featuring some older models. But just like many of you, we still treasure our collections of older miniatures, and we still want to be able to use them in games and forge glorious tales of heroism and adventure on the tabletop. To be perfectly clear, some of these models that are shown in this article are going away to be replaced by nice, shiny new models in the near future. Mostly the Skaven line, which have needed some new sculpts for a very long time. I'm sure we'll be seeing all kinds of new Skaven models, since the Skaven seem to be part of the new Age of Sigmar, 4th edition, 4.0, whatever you want to call it, launch box, right? Though we haven't seen any of the new models yet, just the cool animation they showed off during the preview, at Adepticon this year. One thing that I noticed that was weird is they didn't show any plague monks. They showed a couple of named plague monks that are going away, but the normal plague monk kit, they're not showing any that's an old kind of goofy looking kit, and I'm kind of surprised it's not getting a replacement. The clan rats are getting a replacement, and they're way newer in my opinion, so that's kind of a strange thing. But the guy waving the censer and the guy with the book, I think, those guys are going to hopefully be replaced and not just completely retired. However, 2 entire factions are going away, not just getting replaced. Technically, it's 1 faction and 1 sub-faction, which I'll mention first. The Bonesplitterz from the Orruk Warclans will disappear, including 7 different units according to the article. The majority of these models came out in 2011 and 2012 or so, which means that they predate the Age of Sigmar, which launched in 2015. The sculpts do look a little bit dated, but Lord knows that GW has plenty of older sculpts in production these days, which I'll get back to in a little bit. The other full faction that's disappearing is Beasts of Chaos, a group that I quite enjoyed. I'm really glad that I decided on getting the Cities of Sigmar Spearhead box from my local shop shortly after coming home from Adepticon, where they talked about the new Spearhead thing, which is kind of like Combat Patrol, but for Age of Sigmar, all that kind of stuff. I'm glad I got Cities instead of getting the Beasts of Chaos Vanguard box, which I kind of assumed would turn into a Spearhead box. That was my other choice, was going with the Goat Boys. I've always loved the expressive faces on those guys, and now 17 units, some of which are admittedly very old, but, a few of them are relatively recent, and the entire Vanguard box are going away. However, some of these Beasts of Chaos models aren't being completely retired or put out of production. They're just not a part of Age of Sigmar anymore. Some of the wild great phrase, as GW calls them in the article, are so old that they actually qualify to start being sold in Warhammer The Old World sets. So that's kind of nice. It'll be back to the square bases for them. This probably works okay as they were initially designed to fit in rank and flank formations back in the day anyway, and they couldn't kind of spread out. So you'll still be able to buy some of the Goat Boys, which is nice. The biggest surprise in my mind is how many Stormcast Eternals are going away. This was like the faction that launched Age of Sigmar, and none of these models is older than 2015. GW even mentions this in the article. Stormcast Eternals have one of the largest miniature ranges in Warhammer history. With so many war scrolls, often for troops who have similar fighting styles, certain units are returning to the distant halls of Azir. Azir? Yeah, anyway. They sure did crank out a lot of Storm Bros over the last 9 years. They were almost like Primaris Lieutenants in Warhammer 40,000. According to the article, 23 units from the Stormcast Eternal range are being removed or replaced. Not all of these units are leaving the army, but all of the sculpts shown in the article are going out of production. And, some will get new sculpts, like the Liberators, for example. The original battle line for the Stormcast Eternals have already been replaced with kind of less chunky sculpts and newer shields and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, I liked the old chunky sculpts better myself. However, a lot of the rest of the models are just going away and won't be produced anymore. I wonder if they're going to have to change the big statue out in front of the HQ, because that he's one of the old chunky Liberators. And then there are the Slaves to Darkness, but not the whole faction, of course, just all of the Warcry warbands for that faction that you could use in Age of Sigmar. They're pretty much all going out of production, from the earliest ones like the Iron Golems and the Corvus Cabal to some of the most recent ones like Horns of Ashut, who are just a few years old at this point. Not only does this not speak well for force options in Age of Sigmar 4.0, but it also makes me wonder about how much longer Warcry itself will be around. Another quote from the article: 2 factions, Beast of Chaos and Bonesplitterz, as well as a number of older Stormcast Eternals from the Sacrosanct and Warrior Chambers, will be receiving free-to-download digital battle tomes. These will feature new background and rules, and will be considered legal for use in competitive play until summer of 2025. At this point, they will move over to Warhammer Legends and will no longer be supported for competitive play. We encourage you to continue using your collection for casual play. How nice of them. And we will continue to support this content with rules and balance updates as needed throughout the edition. Now, notice there that they said edition and not editions, which means that they probably won't bother to make the free war scrolls and such for these models in the following edition, which would be Age of Sigmar 5th edition, which is honestly probably closer than you think. It's only about 3.5 years away. If you haven't heard of Warhammer Legends yet, it's what happens when Games Workshop decides to stop producing a specific miniature. They kind of make a final war scroll or datasheet for it, and then it's not playable in competitive events anymore, like tournaments and such, but you'll still have rules for playing it in casual games with your friends. So you and your retired miniatures aren't totally left holding the bag. In this situation, some of these models are okay for tournament play until summer of 2025, as said in the article. I get it. They can't keep producing the same models forever. Well, except for certain Tomb King skeletons whose sculpts are so old that they can legally drink here in the States. I got a joke here for you. Skeleton walks into a bar and he says, "Bartender, I would like 1 beer and 1 mop." But some of these models are really not that old, like the Stormcast. And maybe it was just a situation where they made too many of those Sigmarines, and now they're finding that with their current production issues, they can't keep, some old stuff available when they're so focused constantly on the new. You've probably noticed the kind of breakneck pace that Games Workshop is on these days to keep producing new models, frequently not enough of them either, again, due to production problems, and also how much stuff is temporarily out of stock on the website and in stores. I have friends that are store owners that can't get normal staples, generally known as restocks, right, for 40K in Age of Sigmar into their stores, sometimes for months, even as the stock levels on the Games Workshop site are seemingly starting to get a bit better. So it seems like the solution Games Workshop has chosen here is to kind of rip off the Band-Aid, as it were, and just make a big announcement about all the old stuff, some of it not very old at all, that's going away, so you better get it now if you want it for the future. If you can actually get it, that is. And of course, to entice you to buy models that are soon to be out of production and no longer available, they'll be releasing free War Scrolls so you can at least still use those models to play casual games with your friends, which is at least something. All this goes to show that Games Workshop's business model is pretty much switched over to churn mode, right? Keep making new things month after month after month, week after week, and make the things that you bought previously, some as recently as just a couple of years ago, retired to Legends and out of production as soon as a new edition comes out. I hope you're prepared for this because I highly doubt it'll be changing in the future. This is the new schedule of events every 3 to 6 years, and this will be the new normal. The most important takeaway from this whole thing, all these retired models that you already own, they're not going anywhere. You can always use these models that you've built and painted in all kinds of cool miniature agnostic games if you want. They just won't be playable in Age of Sigmar anymore. And they also really won't be available on the website or in stores too much either soon, so you might want to keep that in mind. What do you think about all of this? Will it affect you at all? Will it stop you from jumping into Age of Sigmar 4.0? Or will you move to something else? Let me know all of that kind of stuff and whatever kind of thoughts you might have down in the comments below. If you liked this video, here in the dark in my sunroom, let me know by clicking the thumb button. It looks like this down there. It's the one that's pointing up. Click on that. Give me a like. I'd appreciate it. It helps the channel. It helps the videos get out. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this every single Friday. And thanks for watching.